welcome to this week's episode of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Rondell Dono, and once again I'm happy to bring the law and you. I hope you are keeping well this Thursday. Of course, you know, last week, I'm rushing the weeks, I don't know why. Last week we had the Honorable Ombudsman of Trinidad and Tobago, the Mr. Rajamanlal Joseph. He was here speaking about the roles and functions of the Office of the Ombudsman of Trinidad and Tobago. And I know last week we had not completed what we were discussing. And this week we are going to continue on the discussion, more particularly speaking about the role of the Ombudsman with respect to the Freedom of Information Act, as well as the Tobago House of Assembly Act. And once again, I have no other than the Ombudsman of Trinidad and Tobago on set with me again, Mr. Rajamanlal Joseph, who was also a judge of the Equal Opportunities Commission Tribunal. Good morning again, Mr. Joseph.
Morning, Mr. Donovan, and it's good to be here.
Once again.
Yes.
I thank you, and I thank your office for acceding to the request. And of course, because this is a public function, it's important that the public is aware of their rights, rules, and responsibility. I know last week we were discussing in terms of the role functions, as well as how an aggrieved person can make a complaint to the Office of the Ombudsman. Now, in terms of the process of the complaint, I know we went through the procedure. Now, there was a question with respect to if one is unable to make a complaint by themselves, or they are illiterate, or rendered disabled. Can someone make a complaint on their behalf?
Mr. Donovan, the short answer to that is yes. All that is required is that you get a friend or a member of your family to put the complaint in writing, have them sign it on behalf of you, and submit it to our office. You could submit it, as I said before, via email. They could use regular, as they call it, snail mail now. They can drop it at our drop box at any one of our offices, or they can simply deliver it by hand.
And does that mean that although someone is acting on their behalf, let's say, for instance, it's time now for follow-ups, etc., is it that the person who has wrote the complaint or authored the complaint, can also follow up on that person's behalf? Yes.
And by the same token, our investigators could call the actual complainant and speak to that person.
Okay.
Okay, as well as the person who is acting on behalf of the complainant.
And let's say, for instance, persons who are disabled, let's say visually or rather hearing impaired. Mm-hmm. How does the Office of the Ombudsman deal with persons like that?
Actually, we have a particular situation where this hearing impaired person is seeking to get treatment for a really serious ailment. And this could only be done by a particular facility of the Ministry of Health. And he was confused because somebody acting on behalf of him submitted his application to a hospital, and it was inappropriate. So what we did is we called him and we sort out the entire problem. All he has to do now is go to Mount Hope. They will give him a referral letter, and he would begin to get treatment.
I know we were speaking about the success rate in terms of when a member of the public make a complaint. I know the Ombudsman has the authority to summon the public officer. Now, in terms of the success rate, how successful has the Office of Ombudsman been to settle these claims?
Whenever matters go to summons, remember the jurisdiction of the Office of the Ombudsman in the hearing of a summons is analogous to that of the High Court. All right, so that's the first thing you have to understand. So these are serious proceedings, and it is, in a sense, the ultimate coercive authority of the Ombudsman. And we generally get resolutions at a very high level. Over 75% of the matters that go to summons are resolved. And what is very interesting also is that in the hearing, we normally have permanent secretaries, heads of departments, directors, and they have invariably set up procedures in their ministries or departments to sort of fast track our correspondence. So we are getting things done.
Okay, so they have a department to deal with
Yes.
complaints of the
Yes.
ombudsman. That is very interesting. So let's change, or rather transcend to the purpose of the Ombudsman and the Freedom of Information Act. I remember last week I was speaking to you about whether the Office of the Ombudsman can deal with issues of judicial review. I know usually when someone is aggrieved, they go by an attorney. Of course, this is an expensive process sometimes. Now, can you tell the public in terms of the role of the Ombudsman when dealing with freedom of information requests?
Whenever a member of the public makes a request for information from a public authority, they have 30 days to process that application and either let the person know they're going to get access to the documents they wish, or they are refusing. Now, if they send a notice to the person making the application and say that we have decided to refuse because the documents are, in their view, exempt under the Act, the person has the option, and it's a very serious option, to complain to the Ombudsman, but he has only 21 days to do it. Once you complain within that 21 days, we are going to take up your matter and we are going to make representations on your behalf to the public authority. And we are going to question whether the refusal is an appropriate one, because public authorities in law are not only required to tell you they refuse based on a particular section of the Act that makes the document exempt, but they are required to give reasons. And wait,
Yes.
the reasons must be intelligible reasons. Good?
Yes.
And if they don't comply with that, I could make recommendations to them.
So is it that you're saying that after the 30 days, I mean, in terms of when a public authority has to make a reply to the individual, is it that the Ombudsman now can act after that 21 days, after that 30 days, you're saying?
All right, let me just clarify that. Within the 30 days, if they send a notice to the applicant that they refuse the application on the basis that the document is exempt, for instance, that person has 21 days to complain to the Ombudsman, and then we take up the matter.
And then you take up the matter.
Yeah.
And let's say, for instance, they respond on the 30th day. The public
No,
authority.
the public authority could even say, look, to the applicant, we are processing your application. Would you be minded to grant us an extension because we are having difficulties in sourcing the documents you wish?
And if they refuse to present or furnish information to the Ombudsman, what authority can the Ombudsman have to litigate or
no, we are not going
forward?
to litigate. All right. I would simply summon the permanent secretary or the director, the head of department, to appear before me.
No, I'm sure.
And to answer very, very serious questions.
No, I'm sure this has happened in real time.
Oh, yes, it has happened.
And I mean, without saying, of course, disclosing the authority, can you just give an example as what would have happened during the course of that particular proceeding?
We had a recent situation where the HDC had refused initially to provide certain information to this gentleman, and he was directly affected by the information. And we made representations to the organization, and because I have had the managing director before me on other matters, I think that they took us very seriously and they provided the information eventually. So the gentleman was satisfied. He got what he wanted. Now, let me just say, it cost this gentleman nothing. Okay, and remember, the court has held, as far as the Court of Appeal, that right you have to approach the Ombudsman is an alternative remedy. Mr. Donovan, you know what that means.
Of course, yes.
If you apply for leave for judicial review and you did not pursue all of the alternative remedies available to you, you're not going to get leave.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
And that is critical. And I think it's important for the public to note that whereas, yes, an attorney may request on behalf of the client put in an information relating to whatever decision of a public authority. What I'm sensing is that if the Office of the Ombudsman takes over the matter, it seems as though these authorities take a person's matter more seriously.
Yes, they do. No, they do. Because over the past year and a half, whenever they don't take us seriously, they end up before me, answering very difficult questions. And no senior public officer wants to have to leave their office to come to my office to answer very searching questions. Okay?
And as you said, you have penal powers.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
And what sort of consequences?
Let me tell you. Right at this moment, I'm in the process of doing a special report to Parliament because a particular senior functionary under oath, and remember, in a summons hearing, you give evidence on oath, okay? Gave me an undertaking that he was going to adopt a particular course of action. He subsequently wrote to me indicating that he's not going to do that. Therefore, he has resigned from his undertaking. So, I am writing a special report to Parliament. Now, you know there's a joint select committee in Parliament that discuss how certain public departments function. So I expect that he is going to be called before that committee and grilled. And I intend to deal with it publicly also.
Yeah, and of course, officers of the state or public authorities, I guess they fail to realize that they took a oath, they have a duty to perform their functions on behalf of the public, because they are being paid by taxpayers, etc., and they are asserting duties under the Constitution, or rather under the laws, rather, right, of Trinidad and Tobago, whereby these officers have to comply.
And Mr. Donovan, you should know that in the preamble to our Constitution, we operate in a state where we have a participatory democracy, okay? And therefore, one of the implications of that is that there must be accountability and transparency as regards public officials. So you cannot hide things. And that is the purpose of the Freedom of Information Act also, okay? So that when public officials attempt to evade their responsibilities, the Ombudsman is there as a watchdog to ensure that citizens get their administrative justice.
And it's important to know that this office is independent and has been, and also has been appointed by the head of state.
Yes, it is an appointment by the President after consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, okay? So that all of the constitutional officers participate in my appointment. Good.
Indeed. So moving forward from the Freedom of Information Act, or Freedom of Information request, how many requests have you gotten from your office with respect to freedom of information?
As it stands now, I think we have received this year pretty close to about 36 or so, okay?
And of course, it can be more if the public are aware.
Yes.
Because I don't think many persons are aware, and oftentimes you find that they go to attorneys, and then it's an expensive process to file, to retain an attorney at law, to file for leave, and then make an application.
Apart from that, Mr. Donovan, remember, if they don't avail themselves to the alternative remedies set out in the Freedom of Information Act, then they may be denied leave, okay? And that is the end of their matter.
Yes, correct. Because of course you're looking at the interest of justice and also abuse of process.
Exactly.
Because you did not follow the alternative remedies. Right. So it's important to note that.
Why should a court hear you when you had an alternative to have your matter sorted out? And what is interesting, you don't pay a cent.
Indeed. Let's move to the Tobago House of Assembly. Yes. Now, I know your office also has an important role to play when it comes to the Tobago House of Assembly Act. Can you just explain to the public exactly what it is?
You're aware, I'm just setting some brief groundwork
Sure.
here. You're aware that there has always been difficulties between the THA and the central government in terms of budgetary allocations. You get these complaints on a regular basis. The THA Act in Section 57 creates what is called a Dispute Resolution Commission. And in that part of the Act, the Ombudsman is the chairman of that Dispute Resolution Commission. So if, for instance, the THA is disgruntled about the allocations of the central government, and let's assume the Chief Secretary writes to the Cabinet and say, look, this is my difficulty with the allocations made by Parliament, and Cabinet does not really bother with them, they could file a complaint with me. And that will trigger the setting up of the commission. I will then invite 2 persons to be nominated by the THA, 2 by the central government. We sit and we hear the matter. And then we make recommendations to Cabinet on what they should do.
But has that been exercised, though?
As far as I'm aware, no. And I don't know why. Or maybe the functionaries at the THA are not aware of it.
Well, this is, I mean, and this is my question, whether they are aware. Because what you're telling me, I mean, you've been hearing administration through administration, particularly when there's a different administration in the THA versus central government. Particularly just this year, we've heard the current Chief Secretary complain that the budgetary allocation is not sufficient for the effective running of Tobago. And of course, this is the first time I'm actually hearing about the fact that the Ombudsman, the Office of the Ombudsman, can intervene. Yes. So therefore, to get public awareness, is it that the Office of the Ombudsman is able to reach out to the THA, or rather, because I would assume that, I mean, if you have an administrator, the administrator would obviously be aware of the law.
Mr. Donovan, and that is precisely why I agreed to appear on your program today, so that I could send this message across to all of the parties concerned that, look, there is a mechanism in law available to you all to have your disputes on budgetary allocation sorted out. And there's no need to rush and, occupy the scarce resources of the court system, okay, when you have an alternative. And in any event, the new rules of court mandate the court to try to get parties to resolve their issues. Yeah. Yeah. All right, you know that.
Of course.
Okay.
We are going to moving away from the litigation type of practice to more alternative resolution.
That's right.
Right, and of course your office is really a mediation or resolution type functionary.
Exactly. You see, so that that is one of the reasons why I am appearing on your program, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Okay, to get the message across to the public and to the THA and functionaries in the central government. Good.
Now, of course, as you mentioned, THA, is it that also the office deals with any complaints that are made in Tobago against the THA? Because THA is really the administrative arm of governance over there.
Actually, Mr. Donovan, I recently spent a week in Tobago hearing matters. Okay, I was able to deal with approximately 90 matters.
Wow, that's a lot.
Okay, yeah, it was a lot.
That's a lot.
I think I got, on average, 2 hours sleep a night in preparation for the hearing on the next morning.
And in terms of those hearings, is it that how does the hearing go?
In Tobago, you don't have permanent secretaries and deputies and so on. You have administrators of various divisions. If the complaint concerns a particular division, that person is going to be summoned to appear before me. And in fact, the week I spent in Tobago, I had almost every administrator from every division and the chief administrator appearing before me. And remarkably, we were able to have a resolution rate of over 70%.
And the 30%?
No, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing, okay.
It's ongoing,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Like for instance, there was a complainant who wanted to have a retaining wall constructed. So I had both the administrator and the engineer before me. But to resolve the matter, they gave me the undertaking that they would go on the site, they would do a proper visit and analysis, and they would try to get the funding to accommodate the citizen. And at that site visit, the senior investigator at Tobago would accompany them. So I got a report on that, and they are working on it. So it's going to take some time.
Yes.
There are some complaints cannot be dealt with immediately. I mean, it takes a lot to construct a retaining wall. All right.
Indeed, yes.
Right.
Quite, especially when you are starved for funds.
Yes.
And then you have to allocate the particular funding to suit the needs of the citizenry, etc. So therefore, how do we balance, or what is the balancing act with respect to the need for a resolve versus the lack of funding? And how does the Ombudsman deal with that?
It has been dealt with, to my mind, effectively. I had the engineer of the San Fernando Corporation before me. This elderly lady complained about certain things in her property, and they indicated that they are going to sort it out for her. So I got that undertaken from the engineer. They did go, they did do the repairs, but it was not to the satisfaction of this elderly citizen. So she called my office. She spoke to the investigator. The matter came to me. When I got the undertaking, I indicated to the engineer that I am going to adjourn the hearing of the summons to a date to be fixed, pending his operationalization of the undertaking. Now that I have a new complaint, I have decided to send him a notice of the hearing. So he's due to appear before me very shortly to tell me why it is that they have not done the work that they promised to do to the satisfaction of the complainant.
Now while obviously this is, I mean, it could be subjective as well as objective in terms of what is satisfactory. So is it that your investigator is qualified to note or to determine, rather, whether whatever work has been done subpar or substandard, or, you know, to that extent?
There are some things that even the ordinary person could discern by merely a visual examination. There are times when, for instance, you cannot do it because you're required to do stress tests and so on. But this is a case where you have a step that has shifted because of work being done, all right? On a particular drain, you could see it, it is visible. And therefore, they have to remedy that. And that has not been remedied. So I want to find out from the engineer why it has not been remedied. He told me on the last occasion when he was before me that they had some difficulties and he was going to scrounge materials from different projects to satisfy this elderly citizen. And interestingly, she is a retiree of the San Fernando Corporation. Okay? So there should be some additional care and concern, and they have not done what they were supposed to do. As far as her complaint is concerned, I'm going to have that sorted out when he appears before me.
And sometimes it's a simple thing as just getting the proper workmen to do the work,
That's right.
to do the work effectively and efficiently, because then it means that you will save cost.
Exactly, and the thing about it is I understand that the engineer cannot be all over the place.
Agreed.
Yeah, so he would probably leave a foreman to, oversee the project and so on, and he may not be as efficient as he ought to be. Good? But I still want him to be before me to let him know what is transpiring and that I am not pleased with the outcome.
Now, in terms of the office of the Ombudsman and your requirements and in terms of your funding, are you properly staffed and funded to deal with the functionary aspect of your office?
For the time being, yes. I think that as the number of complaints increase, and I expect them to, because this year we had quite a lot of complaints, okay, compared to the previous years. So that we would be making representations to the clerk of the House to have additional investigators on board.
Because personally, I know of someone personally who had an issue with a corporation in South as well for the last 17 years. And she attended the office of the Ombudsman, and within a year, her issue was sorted out.
Yes.
You know, and it is very interesting. I mean, I as an attorney would have done certain matters where I would see letters after letters from the office of the Ombudsman, to the point where it has now become litigious because of the fact that, okay, the corporations or the entities are not taking the Ombudsman's office serious, so therefore now they have to retain an attorney to deal with these situations.
Okay, Mr. Donovan, let me just say, for the information of the public, that approach of writing numerous reminder letters to public functionaries, I have issued directions to stop it. You are going to get a first letter, you are going to get a final letter thereafter, and if you don't respond to my final letter, then you're going to appear before me by way of summons. Okay? So that is not going to happen on my watch again.
I mean, that is a good approach, because I often wondered why so many letters, in reading a brief, you see so many letters in and out, where the Office of Ombudsman is asking for certain information, requesting that you present same within 14 days, within 30 days, 14 days, 30 days pass, nothing happens. So it means that certain public authorities has not really been taking the office seriously because of the fact that these things has been done in the past and has been overlooked.
Exactly, and I intend to stop all of that. I cannot really stand matters going on and on and on. I mean, you know that our Court of Appeal has actually impugned a particular court for not having their decision presented to the parties for 7 years.
Yes,
I remember dealing with a complaint altogether. It was 14 years, Mr. Donovan. I think I mentioned that on our last. But I was able to sort it out in 3 months. But it pained me tremendously when I read that file to see the number of reminders sent to both the Elections and Boundaries Commission and the Solicitor General. You know, and it was when I summoned the Solicitor General to appear before me that we got a resolution to the matter.
Yep. So it means that the functionary of the Ombudsman office has to be taken seriously.
Exactly.
Indeed. And
Exactly.
I just want to remind the public that, of course, your website, you can visit your website at www.ombudsman.gov.tt, as well as you can call your offices 624-3121, or you can email feedback@ombudsman.gov.tt. Of course, your offices are in Port of Spain.
Yes, we have in San Fernando and Tobago.
So everything that you want to know, it's on the website. You can make a complaint. You can call the office. Mr. Joseph's office seems to be very, very, how do you call it? You are personable. Right?
Yes, I think so.
Being someone of such high esteem, even putting yourself forward to be interviewed, we are indeed grateful. And your final words, I know we are out of time, but I believe we will have gotten a lot of information in.
Okay, just one thing I want to say before we close. People should not be afraid of being victimized when they supply the Ombudsman with information in terms of their complaint. I want people to know that all of the documents and all of the information we collect in processing a complaint is privileged information. It means that that information is not going to be shared with busybodies. It is not going to be called into question in any court. You cannot ask privileged information to be made available, all right? So that they should not have any qualms about providing us with relevant information. Okay?
Indeed. Indeed. Mr. Rajman Lal Joseph, the Ombudsman of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much, sir, and we are dealing grateful to have you here on behalf of WESN Content Capital.
Well, Mr. Donovan, I too am happy that you have accommodated us.
Thank you so much, and do have a blessed day. So guys, it's a wrap. You have been watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital with the Ombudsman of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Rajman Joseph. I would see you again next week. And before you go, I leave you with this quote: don't count the days, make the days count. Do have a blessed day. Goodbye.
WESN